I never thought a simple trip to a thrift store would change everything. But there it was, sitting in a dusty corner, an unmarked VHS tape, old and forgotten. No label, no clues, just a black plastic cassette staring back at me like it held some secret I wasn't meant to uncover. Curiosity grabbed me hard. Why would anyone keep something like this, and why leave it without any identification? The store was quiet, the air thick with the smell of old paper and mildew, and this tape felt out of place, like it was waiting for me. I could have left it alone. I should have. But instead, I slipped it into my jacket pocket, my heart beating faster than it should. Something about that tape felt wrong. But the pull to find out what was on it was stronger than my hesitation. Back at my apartment, the silence felt heavier, almost as if the walls were watching. I set the tape on my table, the plastic cold beneath my fingers. The VHS player hadn't been used in years, but it still worked, like it was ready for this moment. As I pressed play, a wave of unease hit me. The screen flickered to life, but the image was distorted, grainy, and dark. Nothing like the neat, labeled tapes I used to watch as a kid. Instead, the screen showed static, then flickers of shadowy shapes that I couldn't quite make out. Why was this tape so damaged? Had it been recorded over? Or was something else at play? The sounds were worse. No cheerful music or voices, just an eerie hum underneath a faint whisper, almost like the tape itself was breathing, alive in some strange way. I leaned closer, trying to catch what was being said, but the words twisted and slipped away from me. I kept watching, unable to look away. The images shifted, blurry faces, a dimly lit room, a figure standing in the corner, just barely visible. Was it watching me? My skin crawled. Then the tape went black. I sat back, heart pounding, the room suddenly too quiet. Was this just some weird prank? An abandoned recording? Or something darker? Questions swirled in my mind, and the tape sat there, silent but pulsing with some hidden energy. That's when I realized, I wasn't alone. Not really. The moment the screen went black, a strange shiver ran down my spine. I sat frozen, heart racing, torn between shutting off the player and pressing play again. Something about that tape felt like a trap, yet I couldn't resist. I rewound it, the familiar mechanical whir filling the room, then hit play once more. The static flickered back, and the faint hum returned like a low growl beneath the noise. The grainy image slowly sharpened into something that made my skin crawl. There was a room, a small, dimly lit space with peeling wallpaper and a flickering overhead light. But it wasn't just any room. In the corner, something shifted. A figure, maybe a person, stood motionless. Its features were blurred, almost melting into the shadows. I couldn't tell if it was male or female, human or something else. The camera angle felt wrong, like it was watching me as much as I was watching it. The tape wasn't just recording. It was recording me. Then the figure moved. Just a twitch, barely perceptible. But enough to freeze me in place. It turned slightly, revealing the faintest glimpse of a pale face, eyes that seemed too large and dark to be natural. I blinked, hoping it was a trick of the static, but the eyes stayed locked on me. The whispering came back, louder this time, layered beneath the crackle of the tape. I strained to hear the words. They were garbled but chilling, snatches of warnings or pleas, maybe both. Something repeated over and over, like a mantra, "Don't watch, don't watch." I told myself to stop. To eject the tape and throw it away. But the tape held me in place, like a spider's web. Then the screen flashed to a close-up shot of the figure's face. The eyes widened unnaturally, and the whispering escalated into a cacophony of voices, overlapping, desperate. The image flickered, then changed to a new scene, an empty hallway, lit by a single swinging bulb. The camera moved slowly down the hall, revealing peeling paint and scuff marks, and then, just at the edge of view, a shadow darted behind a doorway. My breath caught. What was happening in this tape? Was it showing real places? Real events? Or was it something else entirely? I noticed something new, scrawled on the wall in what looked like black marker, half hidden behind the shadow. The word sent a fresh chill down my spine: "You shouldn't be here." The tape felt like a nightmare playing out in slow motion. Yet, every time the screen flickered, every time the whispers grew louder, I felt a strange pull, like it was trying to tell me something. Or warn me. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. Time lost its meaning in that dark room. The tape continued to twist and turn, revealing fragmented glimpses of the figure, the room, the hallway. Sometimes the image would distort, warping into shapes I couldn't understand. Suddenly, the tape jumped to static, the screen flashing bright white before cutting to black. And then, silence. I sat there, the weight of the silence pressing down. My mind raced with questions and fear. What had I just watched? And why did it feel like the figure in the tape was reaching through the screen, trying to break free? The VHS player blinked, waiting for me to make the next move. I knew there was more on that tape. I was certain of it. And despite every warning my gut screamed at me, I couldn't wait to watch it again. I tried to push the tape out of my mind as I went to bed that night, but the silence around me only made it worse. The room felt too still, like the shadows themselves had thickened. I kept imagining the flickering light from the tape, the figure's eyes watching me in the dark. Then it began. At first, just faint noises, soft thumps from the living room, like footsteps that stopped when I moved to check. Then lights flickered, briefly plunging my apartment into darkness before snapping back. My phone buzzed with static noises, and my old VHS player hummed quietly, even though I'd turned it off. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe the tape had triggered some electrical interference, or I was just tired and imagining things. But that didn't explain the shadow I saw from the corner of my eye, something darker than the night, shifting just outside my vision. One evening, I heard whispering again, soft and unintelligible. It wasn't coming from the tape player this time. It was around me, filling the room like a cold breath on my neck. I froze, unable to move or speak, until the whispering stopped suddenly, leaving only a ringing in my ears. The strangest thing was the feeling, like something was watching me, tracking my every move. I checked the windows, the doors, but nothing. Just me, alone with the tape. A few nights later, I woke to the sound of the VHS player clicking on by itself. The screen lit up with static, then the flickering image of that same room from the tape. My heart raced as the figure appeared again, this time stepping closer to the camera. I reached out to turn it off, but my hand passed right through the player, as if it wasn't really there. Panic washed over me. Was I losing my mind? Or was something else trying to cross over? The whispering was back, louder and clearer. "Don't watch," it hissed, but I couldn't look away. Desperate, I unplugged the player, but the tape stayed on the table, humming with energy I could feel in my bones. At that moment, I realized the tape wasn't just a video, it was a doorway, a bridge to something I couldn't understand. I tried to tell my friends about it, but they laughed it off. "Just an old creepy tape," they said. "Maybe a prank or bad editing." But they didn't feel it. I started noticing more, small things moving when I wasn't looking, lights flickering in rhythm with the tape static, shadows stretching too long. One night, I found the tape had rewound itself. Not only that, but strange symbols were faintly visible etched into the plastic case, symbols I hadn't seen before and couldn't explain. I googled them. Nothing. Frustration turned to fear as I realized this was far beyond a simple creepy story. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. And the more I watched, the stronger it got. I couldn't stay away from the tape, even though every time I watched it, the dread grew heavier. It was like peeling back layers of something dark and dangerous, each detail more disturbing than the last. The second time I watched, I caught things I had missed before. The flickering images now made sense, revealing cryptic symbols carved into the walls of that dimly lit room. They weren't random, some looked like twisted letters, others like ancient runes or warnings. Their shapes pulsed faintly on the screen, almost glowing with a life of their own. And then there were the messages. At first, they seemed like nothing more than static, but when I slowed the tape frame by frame, words appeared, short, cryptic phrases scratched onto the walls, whispered softly through the static. You will see. They are watching. You can't leave. My heart pounded each time these words appeared. It was as if the tape was trying to communicate, but in a language only half understood, like a puzzle meant to trap me deeper. The figure was no longer just standing there. It moved more purposefully now, sometimes just lurking, other times inching closer to the camera, eyes darker, almost void-like. It was impossible to tell if it was human or something else, but the feeling it gave me was pure terror. I tried to tell myself it was just a film, a strange, experimental video from some forgotten filmmaker. But then the strange things started happening again. My phone screen flickered when the tape was playing. The lights in my apartment dimmed in time with the static. I felt cold, a biting chill that seemed to seep from the tape itself. One night, as I watched closely, the camera angle shifted. Instead of just the room and the figure, I saw another face, barely visible behind the figure, twisted, almost screaming silently. It flashed for just a second before the tape skipped ahead. The whispering voices grew louder, overlapping now, almost like a chant. I caught fragments. Help us. Don't trust. Leave before. Before what? I didn't know. But I felt it deep in my bones, whatever was on that tape wasn't just recording something scary, it was a warning. Or maybe a curse. I tried to eject the tape, to throw it away, but I couldn't. Something kept pulling me back, like I needed to see it all, to understand. So I watched. Again and again. And each time, the tape seemed to change, revealing new horrors. Faces appeared in the shadows, distorted and unrecognizable. Rooms shifted angles, as if the tape was alive and rearranging itself to trap me inside. One time, I noticed a small detail that chilled me to the core. The floor in the room had scratches, deep, claw-like marks, as if someone had tried desperately to escape. The last frame before the tape ended showed a hand, pale, thin, reaching out as if begging for help. After that, the tape ended abruptly, the screen going black with a loud hiss. I sat there, breathless, wondering if I was going crazy or if this tape really was something else entirely. I decided I needed answers. If the tape was some kind of message, some kind of warning, I had to find out where it came from, and what it was trying to stop. After watching the tape so many times, I knew I couldn't just sit and wait for it to reveal its secrets on its own. I had to find out where it came from. What was this thing? Who made it? And why? I started with the obvious, the thrift store. I went back the next day, hoping someone there might know something. The clerk was a middle-aged man with tired eyes who barely glanced up when I asked about the tape. Old stock, he said. Probably left behind by someone who never came back for it. No clues. No story. Frustrated, I turned to the internet, the place where forgotten things sometimes reveal themselves. I typed every detail I could think of into search engines: unmarked VHS tape, creepy VHS tape with symbols, creepy tape found thrift store. Hours passed as I scrolled through forums, Reddit threads, and obscure blogs. Most were junk or people trolling, but then I stumbled onto a thread that made my blood run cold. Someone else had found a similar tape. No label, no explanation. And after watching, they said strange things started happening: voices, shadows, unexplainable movements. The same warnings. The same symbols. That thread linked to others, stories piling up, scattered across Reddit's horror communities. Each tale was eerily similar: people finding unmarked tapes, watching them, then experiencing paranormal events. A few ended abruptly with people disappearing or going silent. I realized this wasn't a one-off. This tape was part of something bigger, a dark web of horror stories and warnings. I even found mentions in an old blog post from years ago. The author talked about an urban legend, an old VHS tape cursed by something they called the Watcher. According to the legend, anyone who watches it becomes part of its story, trapped forever. The more I read, the deeper the rabbit hole went. Some posts mentioned cryptic symbols, matching those on my tape's case. Others described whispering voices, the same chilling warnings. I tried to reach out to people who posted, but most had deleted their accounts or stopped replying. One message stuck with me: if you find it, don't watch. It watches back. It follows. You can't leave once it starts. I felt a cold sweat break out. Was I already too far gone? I dug through old forums, trying to trace the tape's origin by dates and locations. The earliest mention was over a decade ago, always linked to abandoned buildings, strange disappearances, and local legends about dark forces. It wasn't just a creepy story, it was something alive, something feeding off fear and curiosity. I thought about throwing the tape away, burning it maybe. But something stopped me. Like it had a hold on me, like it wanted me to keep searching. And then the weirdest thing happened. My computer screen flickered, showing static for a split second. When it cleared, a new message was there, typed in an old, jagged font: "Don't trust the Watchers." I stared at it, heart pounding. Was it from the tape? Or had I lost my mind completely? There was no going back now. I was in too deep. The days after that message, everything spiraled out of control. The tape's grip on me tightened. It wasn't just a video anymore, it was a presence, a shadow lurking in every corner of my apartment. The lights flickered constantly, sometimes plunging me into darkness so thick it felt like the walls themselves were closing in. I started hearing things, soft footsteps pacing when no one was there, whispers carried on the wind that seemed to call my name. At times, the air turned ice cold, my breath visible even though the thermostat was set to summer. One night, I woke up drenched in sweat. The VHS player was on, the tape running on its own, showing the static-filled images I had come to dread. I wanted to scream, to turn it off, but my body wouldn't respond. Then the figure appeared on the screen, closer than ever. Its eyes locked with mine through the flickering grain, and for a moment, I could swear it was trying to say something without moving its mouth. The room around me shifted. The edges of my vision darkened. Panic surged through me. I slammed my hand down on the player, and the tape snapped off with a shriek of static. But the silence that followed was worse than the noise. The next day, I found scratches on my walls, deep, claw-like marks I didn't remember making. Objects had moved. My phone showed messages I hadn't sent, cryptic warnings and broken sentences: "It's watching. Don't turn around." Sleep became impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the flickering face on the tape, felt the cold breath of the unseen presence. Friends noticed my change, dark circles under my eyes, the way I jumped at every sound. I tried to explain, but who believes a story about a cursed tape? I felt trapped. Like the tape was pulling me into its world, slowly erasing the line between reality and nightmare. One evening, I sat on my couch, staring at the tape, the static buzzing like a heartbeat in the room. I debated throwing it away, but the moment I moved, the whispers came back, louder and more desperate. "Watch," they said. "Don't leave." I didn't know if I was being punished for watching or cursed for trying to stop. But one thing was clear: the tape was alive, and it wasn't done with me yet. The night everything broke was the night I realized the tape wasn't just a curse, it was a prison. It started with a knock. Soft, hesitant, echoing through my apartment like a ghost's tap. I froze, the air thick with cold dread. When I opened the door, no one was there, just the empty hallway stretching into darkness. But then the whispers flooded back, loud and urgent, filling my ears with frantic warnings. I knew I had to watch the tape one last time. Maybe the final piece would show me the truth, or end me. I slid the tape into the player, hands trembling. The screen flickered to life, static swallowing the room. The figure was there, but now clearer than ever, a pale, gaunt face with hollow eyes, almost pleading. As the tape played, the scenes shifted rapidly, rooms I recognized, places I'd never seen, people with terrified expressions running, hiding. Then the camera swung toward me, no, not me, but the camera's gaze locked onto the viewer, breaking the fourth wall in the most terrifying way. The figure's voice whispered directly into my mind, "You belong here now." I tried to look away, to eject the tape, but I was trapped, as if the screen had fused to my eyes. Suddenly, a cold hand grasped my shoulder. I spun around, nothing. But the feeling stayed, tightening like chains. The tape ended with one last frame, a cracked, broken mirror reflecting my face, but distorted, eyes black voids, skin pale and stretched thin. I realized then that the tape didn't just watch me. It wanted to replace me, to trap me inside forever. The horror sank in deeper than anything I'd ever known. This wasn't just a story or a prank. It was a trap for souls, a dark force feeding on fear and curiosity. And now, it had me. I should have left that tape alone. I should have trusted my instincts. But curiosity pulled me in deeper than I ever imagined possible, and now, I'm paying the price. If you ever come across something like this, an unmarked tape, a strange video, or anything that feels wrong, don't watch. Don't listen. Just walk away. Some things aren't meant to be discovered. Some doors aren't meant to be opened. Because once you do, the darkness doesn't just stay on the screen. It follows you home, it whispers in the dark, and it waits. I don't know if I'll ever be free from this. The tape is still here, waiting for the next person to find it, to watch it, to join the story. So, take this as a warning. Don't make the mistake I did. And if you want to hear more stories like this, chilling, creepy, and real, make sure to subscribe and like the video. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next.